Well, let's continue with the Marxian critique. Marx actually has done a lot of work, has written a lot of work on a significant portion of it, not all of it, but significant portion of it is also contains certain critiques of the capitalist economic system, which was developed by the British Empire at the time. I mean, the British Empire was the hegemony of it. And of course, I mean, as I said before in the previous part, the alienation from the work done was an important part of it, which kind of made the workers purposeless, and they had the feeling that they are actually putting the work, but what they produce is not belong to them. So the feeling of producing something, achieving something, is taken from the workers in that sense, according to Marxian critique. And of course, one of the main critiques is actually the system is as a whole. If you look at the whole system, basically you have natural resources which should not have an obvious owner, or whole humanity should own it. If basically someone should own them. And those natural resources, from those natural resources, all production done is by the workers. But part of the products that were produced by the workers were going to the other classes, capitalists at first prominently, but then also some other classes, like, for example, landlords or people who just get interest rate from the bank, for example, rentiers, sometimes they are called like that. They also get a share of production, and all of this production, this additional, these people can have what they consume, their share from the production, because they exploit, they take out part of the product that were produced by the workers. Marx also believes the system is unstable and bound to fail. There are many aspects that create instability according to Marx, but the most critical one was, according to him, the fact that as capitalism progresses, it's a long story, but I just give you the idea before giving you the arguments behind it. I mean, how Marx supports this idea. Basically, according to Marx, as capitalism develops, the cost of inputs relative to the price of outputs for all capitalists will increase, and that will eat up the profits, because I mean, you need to pay more for the raw materials or machinery or everything as that are inputs, basically, and what you earn is relative to what you spend becomes smaller. You can pay less and less to your workers, but it's still the what you are able to give to the workers and take yourself together as a whole becomes smaller. So inevitably your profits will go smaller, and as profits go smaller, I mean, not everyone has the same profits, and profit rates also go up and down, and ultimately at the point when profit rates go down, more companies and ever larger companies will go bankrupt, and the system becomes more and more fragile in that way. Of course, when we are talking on the social, that will end up, according to Marx, with a system where basically all, let's say, natural resources and semi-produced products, machinery included, means of production included, will be owned by the whole society. Whole society, he means very much the humanity, basically. And since they own it, I mean, the costs are basically defined in a different way. I mean, because society owns everything, so natural resources are basically provided freely. You don't need to pay anyone for natural resources. They are limited but free. And also, I mean, the main cost is beyond the natural resources, the labor cost only. I mean, you don't need to pay to the capitalist, the employer who has produced that product money. From social perspective, you have one major production unit. Of course, that production unit also need to make distribution. How this distribution is done is another question. And Marx did not answer this question. Marx said pretty much, this question will be answered by the people of the socialist economic systems. It's not his work to answer this question. Marx is pretty much also critical to the old system, so he doesn't think that actually you should, because capitalist system creates this undesirable characteristics, you should not go back to the old systems. The old systems were in many ways more exploitive. The exploitation also exists in those systems, and they were weaker than the capitalist system in the end. Capitalist system was superior, especially in increasing the production level, which in the end, when ultimately capitalist system ends, will allow the workers to spend less time for production and basically more time to make decisions on how to govern, how to direct this economic system. In capitalist system, that's not possible because in order to increase their profit level, companies need to produce as much as possible. But in after capitalist system, this is possible to some extent. And maybe today we can say, Marx did not say that, as a result of workers' movement, to some extent in the capitalism also some side roads can be created. So this is pretty much, a very summary, the summarized short version of the Marxist critique, which was also developed by the time, the conditions of its time. The peripheral countries of this era, we have kind of talked on it. They were sources of inputs, and they were markets for British commodities, also some luxury commodities, as well as basic, as well as some industrial commodities also. And British Empire at this time, even though the states were weaker, allowed some restricted autonomy to all of these peripheries, including India, for example, where the Mughal Empire was still existing. Why? Because at this time, the production in the peripheries, British Empire preferred to organize by its local rulers, as long as those local rulers accept their relatively low share from the global production. Ottoman Empire, this time continues up to the 1870s. For example, also protected most of its borders and was able to maintain its power in the geographic area, although in front of the global powers, it was a weak country basically. So same thing for example, countries like Brazil were also huge, but not powerful against British Empire, or China or India. When we pass 1850s and 60s, the British centered economic system start to have certain problems. First, the profits have fallen down. Why? The reasons can be explained in different ways. In Marxian sense, maybe the fundamental fragility of system has been created by increased, in accelerated amount of investments done by British Empire. The returns to those investments might become smaller and smaller. So that might be a reason. The potential high return investments might have been exhausted at the time, within the framework of that time especially. And another reason might be, of course, the different countries have industrialized, so they become not that much dependent to the British Empire anymore. USA and Germany were the main countries, and to some extent they control a region. United States start to control the Latin America. Majority of Latin America, and Germany to some extent Eastern Europe and Ottoman Empire, and they started to create their own economic spheres where basically they sell their own industrial products. One interesting thing is actually, I mean, this was the time when, I mean, the countries wanted their sphere where they can dominate the main industrial. They can be the most dominant industrial power, and actually, this in the end lead to the neocolonialism. Uh, in 1880s, for example, famously, the Belgian King Leopold in Belgium had held a conference, and he said actually it is our burden, European powers, to modernize Africa, and Africa, which was at that time, I mean, sub-Saharan Africa, I mean, except South Africa, was not colonized. I mean, the people of Africa were able to live within their own mini systems, or in some cases in some small states. But starting with the 1880s, Africa started to be colonized by them, by the European powers. At the same time, United States expanded to the western regions. Brazil expanded to the, for example, Amazon forests, and the empires like Ottoman Empire and the China and Mughal empires, increasingly they start to lose control of the area. So basically, the England or other European powers start to take control parts of those empires, so that they can get higher share from the production done or extraction done in these countries, but also guarantee a certain sphere of production. So sphere to which they can export their products. So increasingly, this global economic system start to disintegrate. At the same time, workers, well, increasingly they start to work together, and they also because usually, I mean, you don't work at the same workplace at a very long time. They can fire you whenever they don't need you. So workers can travel to different cities and used to work with different people and adjust to work with them in a very short time. So workers become learn increasingly how to work with each other. This, in the end, helped them to form a labor movement. That labor movement doesn't necessarily only want a new system, but in different ways it was challenging the system. And as a third thing, you had also, as another thing, you also had financialization, which basically means that as increasing the profits, the companies were profits rates were getting down. The need for the financial resources, getting debt from the financial system becomes more important. As a result, financial sector increasingly get developed. Large financial companies become founded, and basically, I mean, that has also, according to some economists, especially in the radical economists, destabilized the economic system, because basically more people were specialized in less people were specialized in actually producing something. More people were actually stabilized in how to borrow and lend money. This might be something useful. This might be something that accelerates production level, but basically, I mean, certain people should produce also. I mean, because actual production level is created by the people who are producing things. Financial systems are basically like secondary services. If they absorb too much energy, in that case, I mean, this might harm the economic system, because it might decrease the share of people, the number of people who are actually producing things, number of workers who are actually producing products that are consumed by the people. Next, we will look to the workers' movement in more detail. But let's do that in the next part. We are very close to the 15 minutes mark.